Hi, this is Caleb with A Safe Landing Counseling Services. This is a Christian perspective in counseling. One of the biggest things that I hear from people is that it feels like a lot of the thoughts they have inside of them keep rushing through. They constantly have some sort of internal dialogue that's occurring, and oftentimes this internal dialogue is not positive. It can be very negative, and sometimes even when I ask, hey, are you thinking about self-harm? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? And oftentimes the response is, the thought comes up, but I'm not trying to think about it. So that's what we call active thinking, is when you're trying to think about something and planning for it. Passive would be when it just flashes up in your mind. The question is, why does this happen? Why do we have thoughts that just flash up in our mind? We haven't been thinking about it, and then just boom, it seems like a devious plot from the enemy. Well, that's actually what it is, right? The reality is people are getting some sort of feedback into their minds that's beyond themselves. Not every thought inside your mind is your own. I mean, of course, you have influences from the world around you. You have influences from peers, from media, from friends, from family. There's influence everywhere that impedes into your thoughts. But what about beyond that? Are there thoughts that are coming into your thought process, into your mind, beyond the peers, beyond the things that you can see and you can understand around you? Well, that would make more sense when we start talking about these thoughts that flash up, that flood into our thought process. So the topic today is taking thoughts captive. How do we take thoughts captive? First, we realize that not all of our thoughts are our own. Okay? So 2 Corinthians talks about taking every thought captive and submitting it before Christ. Well, this is kind of a military term, that you would take it captive and put it to the point of the sword, is what Paul would be writing about. There's a very possible way to do this. It's not literal, but it is very, very much an aggressive action where you think about a thought. As it comes up, you regulate that thought and saying, where is that coming from? Asking that question can be such a wonderful, liberating experience, especially if you're in the habit of it, because as soon as you start asking, where's it coming from, instead of saying, well, my mind's messed up, I keep thinking about these negative things, as soon as you say, I know that thought's not my own, and I can do something about it, you have freedom, you have power, you have strength over your thought process. And that's what we're looking for, is taking every thought captive looks like, is that my own or is that somewhere else? And then the next question is, where is it coming from? Where is this thought coming from? If I can identify where it's coming from, then I know whether to keep the thought or whether to push it out of my thought process, or in a military term, execute it. I like the execution thought, because that means I don't have to deal with it anymore. It's not mine. And that's what we're looking for. So when a thought comes in, and maybe it's a flash of an event that you're thinking about towards yourself or towards somebody else, and you think, why would I even think that? Why would that even come into my mind? No worries. That's not from me. And I need to know where it's coming from. So thoughts often come from two different places. Outside of yourself, it comes from two different places. That would be from God or from the enemy. So yes, you have the societal thoughts that are pushing in. That's not the same as what we're talking about here in those flashing thoughts. It's not just, well, I need to process this, whatever's coming up in my mind, and wonder about it, and it's something that needs to be worked through. It's more of, that thought came into my mind, I need to take control over it and put it into its proper place. Well, the majority of our thoughts, a lot of studies have done this from the 1980s all the way up until a recent study in 2020. A lot of negative thoughts are coming into people's thought process, even to the point of 80% of the time, people experience negative self-talk or negative dialogue inside their own thought process. So what we try to do is identify those negative thoughts. Where are they coming from? Well, I know it's not from God. And sometimes they even have a you statement, such as, you shouldn't have done that. I can't believe you did that. That was messed up. Why did you do that? Sometimes it can be elevated. Oh, you're so stupid. Many people have had that experience. Rarely do they hear, you are loved and cared for. I see you. I will take care of you. Okay, those who are well developed in the relationship with God oftentimes have that latter, that second phrasing of, I love you, I see you. So oftentimes we will hear you before we hear I. If we hear I statements, I'm horrible, I'm messed up, oftentimes we partnered with, if you listen to one of the previous videos, I've partnered with a statement or a question that may not be a good one. So taking your thought captives looks much like, where's the thought coming from? Where's this thought coming from? When do I have this thought? Where is my power in this? What do I do with it? Okay, is it from God or is it from the enemy? That second process. And so finally, if I can see that it's from the enemy, the one thing I really want to do is, what does God say? If I can just think about or imagine what God is saying, imagining what he's saying is great, because I'm thinking about pure, holy, righteous, wonderful things that are good. If I'm thinking, if my Father is good and he really loves me, or if God is good and he really loves me, this is probably what he would tell me. And have that thought take the place of it, that it's exactly what we want to do. It rewrites those neural pathways, especially when we do this over and over 3 weeks, over 3 months primarily. You're starting to change neural patterns and becoming a new person in your thought process. That's how we do it. A practical way to start that is every morning you get up and you're asking, God, what do you think about me as a child? And you write down the first thoughts that come into your mind. Now, you can look at those thoughts and say, is this from God or is it not? And as you kind of write those things out, you'll see that there's certain language is very, very positive, because you're setting your mind on things that are above, where Jesus is seated at the right hand of the Father. I hope this video helps you, and God bless. I look forward to talking to you again.